framework. The Freedom to Heal Act seems to have at least some renewed interest. It sounds like, based on conversations I've had in recent weeks. And while I did report for Double Blind Magazine and have been pretty vocal about my understanding, based on previous sources I've spoken to, about the Freedom to Heal Act's quote unquote perceived lack of viability, the right to try, language listed in the executive order really has served as something of a rejoinder to reignite conversation and discourse surrounding the possibility of the Freedom to Heal Act as a way to codify right to try into law, in a faster, more expedited timeline than battling it out in the courts. So ultimately, as I reported in Double Blind this morning, and we'll be happy to link to in the show notes, and definitely go check out all of my profiles on social media, et cetera, to give it a read. It's linked accordingly across the web. But as I reported for Double Blind this morning, ultimately the future of the Freedom to Heal Act runs through the Senate Judiciary Committee. The leaked emails that I had reported on previously were from the Senate Veteran Affairs Committee, wherein one of the staffers, and SFAC is what they call it here in DC, did indicate that there was seemingly a lack of support for the Freedom to Heal Act moving forward. But ultimately, the bill's future does not lie with SFAC. Does their opinion as a committee, or as folks with relationships with other committee staffers and other committee members, have some sort of importance? Absolutely. But ultimately, it remains to be seen whether or not the Senate Judiciary Committee will act and schedule a hearing for the Freedom to Heal Act, especially in the wake of, the mentioning of right to try. It very well could happen. I will be the first to report it if you hear more in the not too distant future. But I also do just want to note who the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee is, which is Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. A man who was born, I kid you not, before the invention of sliced bread. I don't think that's necessarily an insult. That's just a historical fact. The man is in his 90s, and I believe running for re-election. So all of that said, where does Senator Chuck Grassley stand on psychedelic policy reform? Well, there was a very notable DEA religious exemption waiver case, I believe, that was eventually tried in some sort of federal court setting. But that Chuck Grassley, who, to preface, made it very clear that he is not in favor of any one psychedelic religious structure or another, nor is he supportive of any one psychedelic religious faith group or another, but did provide testimony and written support, or at least some sort of documentation for an Iowa-based psilocybin church's defense as to why they should be granted a religious exemption waiver by the DEA. So, excuse me. Senator Chuck Grassley's office also very notoriously does not like the press. So I have yet to have any luck tracking down some sort of comment or statement or indication from anybody over at Grassley's office surrounding where they might stand, or where the Senate Judiciary Committee might stand. But again, the mentioning of the right to try framework and Trump's previous support through his 2018 executive order seems, explicitly in the executive order, along with nods to expedited pathways to the Veterans Health Administration, which we'll get to here in a second, as far as congressional policy implications. But it is always worth, as a reporter, being, and worth it to be able to provide amended or newfound information that influences the future, especially when it comes to policy reform, comparative to previous reporting that I may have put out. So very curious on a personal level to see what happens next with the Freedom to Heal Act, as one could argue, again, this right to try notion listed in the executive order that Trump signed into law last Saturday could very well be a catalyst for renewed interest on Capitol Hill and across the congressional landscape.